Hello, this is Amber Willenberg from the U of L Libraries, and in this video, we're going to talk about developing a search strategy and using that search strategy to find sources through the library for your annotated bibliography assignment. This assignment requires you to find 8 sources on a topic of interest related to your major, at least 3 academic journal articles, at least 1 scholarly book chapter, and at least 1 credible website. Let's start by talking about finding academic journal articles. Before we begin searching, we'll take a look at some of the key features of this type of source. Let's take a look at this article, Increasing Ethnic Diversity in LIS, Strategies Suggested by Librarians of Color. This is an academic journal article, also called a scholarly article or a peer-reviewed article. But how do we know this? First of all, we can read the abstract to see that this article is about the lack of diversity in the library profession compared to the diversity of the U.S. population. The authors conducted a survey of librarians of color to find out what strategies are effective in recruiting and retaining diverse librarians. In other words, the purpose of this article is to present research on the issue of diversity in librarianship. This is a key feature of academic articles. They add new knowledge to an ongoing scholarly conversation. In this case, a larger conversation about the issue of diversity in librarianship through research. Next, we can see that the authors are associated with the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Academic articles are most often written by professional scholars associated with a college or university. You can see that this article was published in the Library Quarterly. If we Google this title, we can easily find out that this is a peer-reviewed journal, meaning articles published in the journal undergo a formal review process involving other scholars reading and responding to the work. Finally, if we scroll to the end of this article, we'll find an extensive bibliography with pages of citations. Academic articles are written as part of a larger scholarly conversation on a topic, and the bibliography shows how the authors have situated themselves within that conversation. By exploring scholarly sources like this in your annotated bibliography and citing them in your research paper, you're participating in the scholarly conversation as well. Your annotated bibliography assignment requires you to identify the methods used by the author of your academic sources. Many academic articles will have a methods section that provides details on exactly how the authors conducted their research. This article has a section labeled Study that outlines how participants were recruited, how the survey was developed, and how the authors collected and analyzed the data. Your assignment also asks you to locate the main argument of the source. The discussion section at the end of most scholarly articles will tell you why the research matters and describe the main takeaways. Now that we have an understanding of what scholarly sources are, we can talk about finding them. The library is the best place to find scholarly sources. These types of sources are expensive, and your tuition dollars help pay for the library to provide access to them. While you might be able to read some academic sources on Google, you'll often run into a paywall and not be able to read the whole article for free. Another issue with searching for peer-reviewed sources on Google is that you'll probably get millions of results for your search and have a hard time narrowing those results down to the kinds of high-quality academic sources that your professors require you to find. In library databases, your searches will return fewer results, but the results have been curated by humans who decided that these sources are useful for students and professors conducting academic research. However, because library databases are more specialized, it's helpful to develop a search strategy before we begin searching. Let's say that we've decided to research the issue of diversity in librarianship for our annotated bibliography assignment. If we were using Google to do our research, we could simply search for diversity in librarianship to get a lot of results. Searching in library databases is a little different, though. We'll search using keywords, the most important words from our research question. In this case, diversity and librarianship are the most important words from our question, but we don't just want to stop there. It can be helpful to think about ways of broadening and narrowing this question with our keywords so we have options once we start searching. For librarianship, we could also think of keywords like librarians or library profession. For diversity, we might think of representation, inclusion, race, and whiteness, and add these to our list of keywords. Brainstorm as many keywords as you can. Having more keywords gives you more options for your search, so you don't get overwhelmed or stuck when you start searching. Once you've developed your search strategy, you can begin using that strategy to find sources through the library. Let's get started on the library homepage, library.louisville.edu. The best place to get started finding academic journal articles is our subject guides on the left side of the page under Quick Tools. These subject guides divide up library databases by subject area, making it easier for you to find the most relevant resources for your research topic. If you take an education class later in your college career and need to do education-specific research, you could click the Education Subject Guide to find a list of databases specific to education research. A database is simply a searchable collection of thousands of sources, most of them academic articles. Since you're all researching a wide variety of topics related to your majors for the annotated bibliography, I'm going to go to our Any Topic Guide to find databases where you can search for any research topic. The first recommended database here is EBSCO Academic Search Complete, a multidisciplinary database that covers a wide variety of subject areas. Most of you will be able to find scholarly articles for your annotated bibliography in this database, but feel free to search in another multidisciplinary database like ProQuest or JSTOR, or a subject-specific database relevant to your topic. In EBSCO Academic, one of the first things you'll notice is that there are multiple search boxes at the top of the page. This is why we developed our search strategy with a list of keywords. We'll enter one keyword per box. Let's try some searches. First, we'll put diversity in the first box and librarianship in the second. This search gave us just under 400 results. While this isn't a lot compared to Google, it's a lot for a library database. But remember, we've already brainstormed several keywords, so we can easily narrow our search down by adding a keyword to make our search more specific. Let's add race as a third keyword to make sure that the articles we see talk specifically about racial diversity in librarianship. We now have just over 20 results that are specifically about the issue of racial diversity in the library profession. While we need to look through the results to see if they appear to be what we're looking for, this is much better than the hundreds of results we had before. Just keep in mind that you're probably going to have to try out several searches with different combinations of your keywords to get the best results. If you look at the left side of the screen under source type, you'll see that we're looking at several academic journal articles, along with some trade publications and magazines. Since you need to find academic journal articles, you can check the box next to scholarly peer-reviewed journals under Limit To, which gets rid of everything that isn't scholarly. One last thing to do before you begin browsing the results is use the date limiter to make sure you're only looking at articles from the last 20 years, another requirement of your assignment. Now that we're looking at only academic journal articles published in the last 20 years, we can go ahead and click on a title that seems interesting. One thing to notice here is the abstract. Always read the abstract because it will give you a quick overview of the whole article, helping you determine if it's useful for your research before you read the whole thing. Another helpful tool here is the Cite button. Click this to get the MLA citation for the article, which you can copy and paste into your Works Cited. Just be sure to check over the citation and make sure everything looks correct. If you decide you want to save this article to read later, there are a couple of options you can choose from. First, you can see if there is a PDF of the article available on the left side of the screen. If so, feel free to save that directly to your computer. Another option is to use the email tool on the right side of the screen to send yourself the article. If there is no PDF, you can click Find It at U of L to see if we own the article, or if you need to request a copy of it. When you click Find It, you'll either see a View Full Text link, which will take you to the article, or a button that says Request Item through Interlibrary Loan. If you just see the Request button, that means we don't own the article, but we will request a copy for you from another school. Just click that button and fill out the form to place a request, and we'll send you the PDF of the article, usually within a few days. Your annotated bibliography assignment also requires you to find at least one scholarly book chapter. Some databases do contain book chapters, but the best place to find this type of source is through the library catalog right on the library homepage. You'll click the Book tab, then enter your keywords. Keep in mind that books are much broader than articles, so you'll need to search using broad keywords. This search gave us 28 results of books held here at U of L. When you find a title that looks interesting, the first thing you should do is make sure it's scholarly by taking a look at the publisher under View Description. The library specializes in scholarly sources, but it's still a good idea to Google the publisher and make sure they are scholarly. Many scholarly publishers will also have the words University Press in their name. In this case, Neil Schumann Publishers is the press of the American Library Association, publishing professional books for librarians, so this is a good source for our research. Also under description, you can view the table of contents for the book to see each chapter title and determine if any are useful for you. If you want to use the book, look under Check Availability to see where the book is held. If it's an ebook, you'll find the link to the ebook here. If you can't find a book with relevant chapters held here at U of L, you can also check the box next to Libraries Worldwide to find all books on that topic. And just like with articles in the database, you can then request a copy of a book or a book chapter that U of L doesn't own using Interlibrary Loan. The last type of source required for your annotated bibliography is a credible website. We won't go into too much detail on this source type, but just keep in mind that you should always check for credibility when using sources found through Google. Here's an example of a news article I found by searching Google for diversity in librarianship. To assess the credibility of this site, I'll simply open up a new tab and Google the publication title, The Chronicle of Higher Education. With this search, I can quickly find out that this source is a major news publication for U.S. academic affairs and has won several journalism awards. You can use this trick with the author of a source. Just Google them to find out more about their credentials. Always make sure you assess the credibility of a website by moving outside of that website to see what you can find out about it. Don't just trust what a website tells you about itself. If you ever have any questions about whether or not a source is credible, you can talk to a librarian. If you ever have any questions while conducting research, librarians are here to help. You can chat with us Monday through Friday from 9 to 4 right from the library homepage, or click Ask a Librarian to find more ways to get in contact with us. You can even schedule a virtual one-on-one research appointment with a librarian for in-depth research help. Thanks!